Hello and welcome to Badminton Weekly, where we talk about what's going on and around the badminton season every week. I'm your host Jasmine Lim, and today we will focus on the recently concluded PETRONAS Malaysia Open, as well as look ahead to the YONEX-SUNRISE India Open 2023 that gets underway this week. And to talk us through it all is India women's doubles player and now an expert on our panel, Ashwini Punapa. Ashwini, thanks very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, let's start with the PETRONAS Malaysia Open 2023. And of course, the big headlines that came out of the early rounds were the seeds tumbling out in the men's doubles. Now, were you surprised to see so many big names exit in just the first two rounds?
To be honest, I wasn't totally surprised, especially because a lot of the top pairs that got knocked out in the first and second round have lost to pairs who've done pretty well last year. For example, the world champion men's doubles pair of Chia and So, they lost to the Chinese pair of Yu and O, who are the World Tour finals winners. So when you look at pairs like that meeting in the first and second round, you realize that it's not really easy, although their ranking definitely shows that they're higher ranked. But they've definitely played tough opponents, which makes it pretty tough first and second rounds for them to get to.
The other big story, of course, was Letizia's first round exit to Kodai Naraoka. It went to 3 games, but where do you think it went wrong for the Malaysian?
Well, again, to be honest, that was a pretty tough first round. And of course, Ali was definitely the favorite to win that match. But having said that, it was a tough first round in front of his home crowd against a youngster who's up and coming and who definitely gave his everything on court. And it was a long match, a tough battle. So it was definitely pretty difficult, but I would say it was a match that was neck to neck. And towards the end, Kodai definitely came out as a winner. In that match, I felt like Naraoka was definitely smarter in terms of his approach to the court conditions. He dealt with the situations with the wind really well. And I felt like in the first game, Lee definitely dominated his better side pretty well. The third game, however, was pretty close. Kodai definitely got the upper hand with a good start. But towards the end of the third game, we saw that Lee came back, but it wasn't enough for him to get the win. Because I think at that point in time, although Kodai had a pretty large lead, he definitely came back close enough to bridge the gap. But the last couple of points, Kodai was faster and smarter, probably.
We'll talk about Naraoka more a little later on, but we also saw Malaysian mixed doubles star Goh Liu Ying call time on her illustrious career. The 2016 Olympic silver medalist played her final match with former partner Chang Ping Soon, and they lost in the first round to Indonesia's Kusha Janto and Kusumawati. You watched that match. What did you make of it? Was it just all about the emotions?
Goh Liu Ying's final match, I felt like it wasn't just about the emotions. Also, I felt like towards the end, it might have been. But initially, Chan and Go put up a really good fight. They had a great start to their match, and they're playing against a very strong up-and-coming Indonesian pair. So it was a match which was really nice. I loved watching it, and I felt like Go and Chan definitely still have a lot of high-level badminton left in them, and they played a really good first and second game. The third game, however, I felt like that's when probably the emotions crept in, because the Indonesians definitely upped their pace and played way smarter in the third game as compared to their first and second game. But I really loved watching the match. It was nice to see Go playing with utter grit and great anticipation and her charm at the net. And it was really nice to watch them play. And I felt like it was a great way for them to finish their partnership and go to finish her career. But having said that, I'm sure they would have loved to have progressed in the tournament, but I'm sure they must be happy with the way they performed that day.
Looking ahead at who got to the finals and eventually emerged as champions, do you think that was a fair representation of the most informed players in badminton at the moment?
I would definitely say yes. The Malaysian Open winners are definitely a fair representation of the informed players. All the winners are currently the world number ones across disciplines, from men's doubles, men's singles, women's doubles, women's singles, and mixed doubles. So that was pretty amazing to see. Also, something that stood out to me was the fact that 4 of the winners are also world champions and also World Tour finals winners. So it's been very nice to see this because I haven't honestly seen this. I think it's been a couple of years where we've had world ranking #1 pairs and players having won all disciplines at the same tournament. And that definitely is a very, very good indication that these are the best informed players, especially starting the year off after having a great 2022. I think we have the best who won. And starting the year off with a win again definitely puts them on the map of one of currently the best. But at the same time, it makes all the other pairs eye them and want to beat them. So they're like going to be chased and targeted by everyone else. So they have like a very, very tough road ahead of them. But they're all world class players and world #1s for a reason. So they're definitely going to be gunning to win more tournaments in the course of the year. So I would say, yes, it's going to be, as much as it's like a great start for them, it's also going to be a target on their backs because everyone else is going to be wanting to beat them.
And of course, when we take a closer look at the men's singles, let's take a look at Kodai Naraoka. At 21 years of age, he has had a breakthrough season in 2022, reaching 4 finals and a Vietnam Open title. Now, he's begun 2023 with a bang. What do you make of his potential, and perhaps has he emerged at the right time to fill in the void created by Momota's slump in these last few years?
I would say yes, it has, especially since Momota has struggled with form in the last year and a half. And Naraoka definitely has had an amazing start to the year. He's had some amazing wins with very long matches each, and having been able to pull it off match after match to get to the finals, it shows the grit that he's got and the stamina that he has. He's got a very unique style in terms of being very, very aggressive. At the same time, got a really good defense as well. And he's just 21 years old. He's got a long way to go. And I'm pretty sure we're going to see a lot of amazing performances from him.
You can catch more on Malaysian stars Lee Zizia and Goh Liu Ying in February's Badminton Unlimited. Join Lee for a breakfast chat at a local mamak restaurant and follow Goh in her farewell tournament as she prepared for her final match. We'll have more from Ashwini very soon, but right now, let's hear from Chinese men's doubles pair Liang Weikeng and Wang Chang, who surprised many by reaching the final of the Malaysia Open, and they did it by ousting some of the biggest names, including Marcus Fernaldi Gideon and Kevin Sanjaya Sukamuljo.
不能说自己预料到了，就是期望自己能进这个半决赛，甚至后面决赛。
不敢想，
这么对啊，
还没想那么久，打一场算一场哦。
我要是能预料到现在世界排名就不止现在这样子。
就去年肯定，今年肯定会比去年稍微进步嘛。对，就不能说跟一样，那一样就没有进步了就不好了，是吧？有一点进步啊，怎么说都是。
这个机会的话是没法预料的一种东西，也说不了大还是不大。对，就是靠自己，我觉得还是靠我们自己的努力吧。就是赛前，就正常准备，跟我们准备每一站比赛都一样。赛前，战术布置或者一些专门的训练。
年轻，对，年轻上我们有很大的优势了，对。
因为现在我们的对手80%-90%都是比我们要年长一点，所以年轻我觉得也算是一种优势，在某种情况下。
Well, there's certainly a pair to watch out for this season, and they'll be next heading to New Delhi for the YONEX-SUNRISE India Open 2023. But back with us to talk more about the Super 750 tournament is Ashwini Punapa, who knows the event well. Ashwini, what can we expect from the KD Jadhav Indoor Hall in terms of playing conditions and who it suits?
The KD Jadhav Indoor Stadium, we haven't had a lot of tournaments there. It's still the 3rd edition of the India Open there. And a lot of players might not have played there, considering the fact that we had the 1st edition in 2019 and the 2nd edition in 2022. So this is the 3rd edition. And compared to the Siri 4th stadium, it's a bigger stadium. I mean, there's a lot more space around. It's not really cramped or narrow in terms of the stadium. The conditions at the stadium is going to be slightly slow on one side and a little fast on the other side. But other than that, I would say it's really good. And since we're having the India Open in the start of the year in Jan, in Delhi, it's pretty cold. So we don't need to have the AC, which makes the stadium really windy. And I would say that would help a lot of players because it's also easier for them to play the game that they want to play. It gives them a lot of freedom on court, and it would be suitable for like all sorts of players, from your all-round players, your attack players. It would also suit players like Carolina and Lakshya, who are fast and have an offensive style. And in general, the players who really enjoy finishing it at the same time being rally players, it definitely helps them. I would say the weather in Delhi is definitely going to be quite a contrast to how Malaysia was. But at the same time, coming from a hot country to a country that's like really cold right now, it's quite different in terms of how cold India is. Although it doesn't get as cold as the European countries, the difference here is the stadium is not going to be heated. So it's going to be quite different for the players because they would definitely have to like take care of their body and make sure that they're quite warm before getting onto the court. And again, I would say the fact that it's winter here, it makes it nicer to play in the stadium because you don't have the AC on. But at the same time, it's going to make it a lot less difficult for a lot of players because you have the freedom to do whatever you want to do on court.
Looking at the draws, the women's singles top quarter stands out. It's a very tough one with the likes of Yamaguchi, Intanon, Hanyue, Okuhara, and Marin all featuring. Now, if you had a draw like that before tournament, how would you deal with it?
So a draw like the top half of the women's singles, for example, is a very tough draw. But I think one of the most important things that a lot of players would be looking at is looking at one match at a time. You can't get too ahead of yourself. And while it's good to see how your half is or how your quarter is, it's also important to note that in this tournament or any tournament for that matter, on that given day, how you play is really important, especially considering the fact that a lot of those players are world top players. It's going to be tough. No one's going to underestimate anyone. So it's definitely going to be a one match at a time strategy.
Looking at the first round specifically, we've picked a couple of clashes that could certainly get the fans going. Let's start with your thoughts on the Okuhara and Marin match.
That's a very tough first round to have. Marin also had a tough first round at the Malaysian Open against PV Sindhu. So it's going to be a match which is going to be very exciting because both players are definitely coming back from injuries. Of course, Marin's had a longer time being back on court as compared to Okuhara. But at the same time, they're players who are extremely gritty and extremely gutsy on court. They're fighters on court. So both of them would be gunning to win their match. And it's going to be a very exciting match. And it could be this way or that way.
And in men's singles, Axelsen meets Srikanth. The question is, can the Indian challenge the world number one this time round?
Well, Victor Axelsen is definitely a formidable opponent. It's going to be pretty tough for Srikanth, considering the fact that Victor has been in phenomenal form in the last year. And of course, at the last tournament, he's the winner and he's a current world number one. So it's going to be pretty tough for Srikanth. But having said that, Srikanth is also someone who has been slowly doing really well and getting back up the rankings. And I'm sure he's going to be looking out to like going and challenging Victor. And given that it's the first match in this tournament, it's going to be tricky because first matches are always this way and that way because no one's really used to how the stadium is and how the court conditions are. And as the tournament progresses, it's always easier for a top player to like get adjusted. I think they're more susceptible to a loss in the first round. So I think Srikanth will definitely have a good chance if he gives his best. But of course, it's Victor Axelsen who's been in phenomenal form. So he's not going to like give it easy. But yeah, it should be a great match.
Well, that's all the time we have here for today. Thank you so much, Ashwini, for joining us. We really enjoyed having you here on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
We'll have Ashwini back on the show real soon. But in the meantime, remember to share your thoughts and questions on the BWF Facebook page. Thanks for joining us today and see you next week.